Hello, welcome back to Fire's Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we're continuing on with Suzerain 2.0. So last time out we had lunch with Frank, and then we headed off to Narbel for some sort of a summit meeting with the Ministry of Health. But we got a whole bunch of newspapers here, so let's start with that before we head back over there. Alright, so first up from the Whole Sword Post. Protests appear calmer. Nationwide protests persist, albeit with a slight reprieve in tension across some cities. Isolated incidents of violence were reported on Monday night in a few major cities, notably Deer and Lockhaven, amidst the prevailing unrest. In Deer, the hometown of the revered circus, a massive memorial march saw tens of thousands of citizens taking to the streets in peaceful remembrance. However, as dusk fell and the crowd began to dwindle, there were instances of discord. Authorities reported that a fraction of demonstrators resorted to hurling stones, disregarding orders to disperse, prompting police action and resulting in arrests. Elsewhere, the protests in Wholesword and the majority of other significant urban centers seem to present a calmer facade, exhibiting fewer confrontations between civilians and law enforcement. As per the data from state press, authorities have made approximately 9,800 arrests nationwide in connection to the ongoing protests. Yet, as we observe the unfolding situation, it is crucial to remain vigilant and steadfast in our pursuit of peace and stability in these challenging times. Fantastic. Alright, from economists, education privatization proven successful. Our editorial team immediately analyzed the CEPA report recently revealed to assess the standards of education. We are curious to see how the policies of the last decade have begun changing the performance metrics. The SB specifically stood out with a jump of 6 positions forward to 5th out of 68. After research and analysis collaboration with the Vice President of Magnus Cartas and the SMEA chapter leader of OMAC, we gained critical insights to how LSB increased its education quality. Boils down to 2 major points. One is privatization efforts led by Prime Minister Alvarez led to most schools in wealthier neighborhoods, 1,404 to be precise, to be privatized. This lifted a significant budget burden off the state because the wealthy paid for great education for their kids and were still taxed reasonably in order to divert funds to state schools elsewhere. The second major factor is the allowance of minor curricular changes for private institutions led to major improvements in student participation, teacher happiness, and boosted the performance of the institutions. All in all, the improvements to the system and the massive amounts of 34 billion lira raised for lesbian made it a lucrative option. Sordland desperately needs more capital to tackle a recession. When education is privatized, foreign capital will also aid in establishing quality schools. The Vice President of Magnus Cartas pointed out that the CEPA report doesn't include access to education metrics and that lesbian has inequality problems. A statement that hasn't been proven with any statistical research from the OMAC, which is why it must be taken with a pinch of salt. The Reign administration could be practical about this term and look to the Southern example on how to do positive change, even though opposition from the Minister of Education is expected. Cool. Then we got 3 papers here from the Radical. Or 3 articles, I guess, whatever. Let's see. So, Sol needs to answer for his crimes. Looking at the history of everything wrong in our country, there's only one figure that everyone points at, Tarkin Sol. He has devolved our country into something much worse than what it was before. He has committed crimes against humanity. We also remember the Izum incident and the wounds that have been inflicted on the hundreds of thousands of people with British ethnic background. We've been calling for his trial, and we believe it is time that this government opens the way for a fair trial by removing the undemocratic and absurd laws that protect him. It is time that the Constitution of 1929 that protects Sol be changed. People are still waiting for a fair trial, for justice to be served, and for their questions to be answered. And shocking misogynist rally. Every day we are appalled by how deep the roots of misogyny go in our country. We are appalled again when yesterday, during protests by the Soldiers' League of Women, counter-protesters showed up to disrupt this peaceful rally. The resulting scuffle between the police, the protesters, and the mob, many were arrested from both sides. The road to change is filled with real obstacles, but we've said it before, we can do it. And the Labor Union Rights March. A large group of labor union members gathered around the city of Volgan to protest against the poor conditions of worker rights in Sortland. People could be seen holding signs, pleading for accountability and basic rights in corporate work environments. Dozens of Taurus workers were in the midst of the crowd. One worker was heard saying, "I know the law gives us nothing on paper. Is this reality we choose to accept?" Others pointed out that the country is relying on the workers to stop their session, but doesn't give them anything back. Look at how great the rights are in Volkswagen: minimum wage, overtime pay, and safe working regulations. The time for real workers' reform is now. One voice demanded with frustration. We have the opportunity to interview some open-minded managers from corporations. They relate that the companies have little to no oversight. It's hard to disagree that the time for labor reform is long due. Alban Clavin from the former swing of the ESB has seen the potential and announced that work has begun to explore what can be achieved. Will President Reign listen to the demands? Time will tell. Fantastic. Alright. So we got, like, 2 reports? Yeah. So, from Whole Sword, PFJP report on reforms. Franz Richter, leader of the PFJP, recently outlined their demands for the reform package. He declared that without the implementation of term limits and limited decrees, it would be very difficult for him and his party to stand by the reform package. Cool. And Vezord, young sword suspected of terror attack. At approximately 1646 on Monday, a terrorist attack occurred in the Vezord city center during a rally by left-wing CPS. The attacker, suspected to be working with Young Swords or another organization connected to him, opened fire with an automatic rifle on the protesting civilians. 17 people were killed, including the attacker, who shot himself afterwards. Witnesses testified that the rifle was hidden behind a newsstand. Our local police are now aware of this tactic, and all newsstands will be inspected by the police before and during crowded rallies. Further investigations on Young Swords are underway. Fantastic. Alright. Well, let's head to Narbel for a briefing on the current welfare situation. I arrived at the meeting room for my talk with Ciara and Paskal. Before beginning, I took a moment to appreciate the view from the balcony. The mountains of Narbel were completely covered with snow. While I was mesmerized by the scenery, Paskal Bennywall walked up to me. My Minister of Health was, ironically, somewhat portly, having gained a few pounds since his breakthrough as best-selling writer. But his authority on social affairs could not be questioned. Such a spectacular view. Ciara Walda, Minister of Education, joined us on the balcony dressed in a sky blue pantsuit. Preference for trousers over dresses had made her the subject of much palace gossip, but it didn't seem to bother her in the slightest. Spectacular indeed, but if you look at the opposite direction, you'll see what Sol's decades of neglect did to the city. Most people living in Narbel are workers, farmers, and their wives and children. They're breaking their backs for close to no pay, all thanks to greedy corporations. My intention is to help the working class. I'm glad we see eye to eye on the issue. If you look past the view, you can see the real problems. Real problems like poverty. Paskal nodded gravely. This was a subject he knew quite a bit about himself. His best-known books were about the plight of Sordland's less fortunate, drawing from his own past growing up in squalor. Well put, Miss Walda. I don't need to tell you about my own experiences of poverty. You've been through similar hardships yourself, Mr. President. It feels like the cards are stacked against you. Exactly. It feels as though there's no way out. You don't have to have been born poor to sympathize with the plight of the impoverished, much as you don't have to have been born a woman to recognize Sordland's need for parity among the sexes. Parity among the sexes shouldn't be our first priority, and look how many high-ranking female politicians our country has. Appearances can be deceiving, Paskal. Her voice sounded bitter. Think about how Lilia's Graf got to her current position. I don't necessarily believe the rumors about her in Seoul, but she never could have risen so high if she didn't parrot his cause. Gloria Tori, is it an accident that the first female assembly speaker is such a staunch conservative? And then there's Alphonso's habit of promoting women to prominent positions to give Sordland a progressive sheen while accomplishing nothing in reality. While women in places like Narbel are denied any opportunity to advance, the government can use a handful of female politicians from wealthy families, myself included, to pretend their only obstacle to success is their own lack of initiative. Meanwhile, those of us who don't use our clout to help powerful men stay in power are denigrated as angry spinsters. I ask you, Mr. President, does anyone care that your strategist, Mr. Galat, doesn't have a wife? I mean, I agree with you completely. Sordland's women deserve better. I'm glad to hear that. As I was saying, isn't it about time Holster addressed the country's real issues, rather than bowing to the wishes of the hawks and fearmongers in the establishment, devoting yet more resources to military and law enforcement? Our welfare, healthcare, and education systems have been decaying since the recession. Sordland's poorer communities are losing hope. Hopelessness and a lack of opportunities can drive people to extreme solutions. We're seeing increased crime, domestic violence, and yes, rising inequality between men and women. Let's see. Let's go with that one. Those issues must be tackled from different directions. We need to engage it holistically. I'm planning to help by using increased budget to improve the quality of healthcare. That could prove useful. We need to be doing a lot more. Education, similar issues. There is another subject I want to mention. I've been working on improving the rights of workers in our country, and a proposed draft bill that is currently being reviewed by our party. Mr. Clavin has already backed me, given his support. Sordland has fallen behind most countries on this subject. It's my responsibility to ensure this is not the case. Let's see. There's always room for improvement, and it's good to hear that you're pushing for it. I appreciate the kind words, Mr. President. I will not let you down. It's also a matter of life and death. Every decade we have some horrific accident due to employees disregard for their workers' safety. So, would you back the bill when it arrives on your desk, Mr. President? To make a decision, I'd have to evaluate the contents in detail. Understandable. You receive all the sections in an outline. It's getting a little cold out here. Let's head inside and continue our discussions. We headed back inside. The meeting room was already prepared for state business. Small gifts for each of us had been placed on the table by the municipality. We took our seats. Alright, let's start with your health overview, Paskal. As you wish, Mr. President. Southern has a free healthcare system except for a few private hospitals operating under it. Most of the populace receives adequate treatment. Health issues primarily appear in rural areas due to a lack of quality services. I am doing my best to ensure that citizens of all ages receive the best health care they can. I also personally want to solve the high infant and maternal mortality problem. Alright, how many doctors and nurses are employed? We have 31,594 doctors and 73,680 nurses working with the Ministry of Health. This is a high number. What I think is, I don't want to be rude, but out of those numbers, how many are in urban and rural areas? Jeez. It's a good point and all, but let's not interrupt each other, please. That's not a problem. The number of doctors per 10,000 is far lower in rural areas compared to urban areas. Treatment time is still too high due to the low number of doctors in rural areas, which get barely any proper coverage. How many hospital beds per are there per 10,000 citizens? That should not have been that hard to read. No, 10 beds per 10,000 citizens, which is a very good number according to our comparisons with other neighbours. We see a lower number in the countries of Magnolia and Valen, but obviously can't match Lesbia or Volksland. Magnolia and Valen are hardly countries take as a standard, but it's good to know we aren't in a huge health crisis yet. What's the life expectancy and mortality rates? Life expectancy is 65 years, and the infant mortality rate is a worrying 85 per 1,000 births, while maternal mortality is at 90 per 1,000. That is pretty bad. Be assured that we're doing everything we can to save mothers and the newborn. Those numbers are stunning indeed. I agree, we must do everything we can. We're working very hard on improving the quality of the services. Thank you, Paskal. Your in-depth briefing is much appreciated. Alright, Ciara, how about you? With pleasure. Source education is free, and we have a very outdated system now in reform. The other important issue is the lack of access to education in rural areas, especially for young girls. The administration has power to solve both problems. My highest priority is to get enough funding to be able to build schools in rural areas while cleanse the educational system of its nationalistic indoctrination and sexist teachings. And how many students and teachers do we have? Currently, there are about 5 million students, 3 million primary education, 1 million secondary, and 1 million tertiary. There are 155,316 teachers. Solent is full of young and bright minds. We should keep striving to make education available for all. I think there needs to be change in the way of thought. We should help children to question and educate themselves. Cool. Well, what's the literacy rate? The literacy rate of Solent is 80%. This is a very good indicator for future growth, but it needs to increase. It's also far lower among girls and boys. If I remember correctly, the most illiterate areas are Berger and Ireland. Now that is correct, although Lockhaven skews statistics for the Northeast region, which also has a vast number of illiterate citizens. This underlines my point about the lack of access to education. Tell me about the difference between urban and rural education. Urban areas have 3 times the number of schools per 10,000 people compared to rural areas. Rural areas also suffer from a lack of teachers. I can't imagine teachers not preferring desolate areas for work. Salaries for teachers are very low here. We need to increase the pay to give them more incentive. Thank you, Ciara. I can fill in the blanks from here. I believe that is everything. Ciara stood up and moved towards the window. She took a deep breath. I hope both of you are preparing your reform plans for improvement. She ignored my statement. Look at this impoverished city. The streets full of potholes, the hospital barely functioning, school half open. It's not just about Solar or even Alphonso failing. This decay in Solar's forgotten regions has been going on for many decades due to structural corruption, which is fueled by capitalism. Well, we are here to change that trend and provide for the people. That remains to be seen. I'm working on the new education system, and your support will be welcome. Ciara sat back down and nodded, and sighed. In one way or another, we need to transform. Greed and venture capitalism will not magically provide for the people. Alright, well, tell me more about your plan, Ciara, because I don't think you'll shut up either way. My plan is require an increase in the government budget. I aim to solve the problems we highlighted with the allocated money. By building schools in these less fortunate rural areas and through fundamental changes in the education system, I believe I will unlock the potential of all our children, boys and girls alike. Let's go with that. Improving the situation in rural areas is indeed a good idea. The investment will be the future stolen. Imagine the untapped potential of the youth unlocked, the knowledge and wealth they will generate. We wanted to promotion of private education, helping create additional funds. Yes, but what cost? I'm not a supporter of the private sector in education, because at the end of the day, they're focused on profit first. Alright, well, what are you working towards, Paskal? I personally want to improve the low quality of healthcare in the rural areas. So I created draft plans to increase the salary of doctors to upgrade the equipment in hospitals. I can do more with an increased budget. Additionally, a privatization plan to promote private investments in the healthcare system could allocate extra funds. Isn't access to healthcare in rural areas an issue? Access is an issue, but not as critical as quality in these areas. The lack of experienced personnel and equipment causes bad treatment, resulting in many deaths. I do hope to create competition and increase the quality of healthcare with privatization of it. A private healthcare system would increase the price of treatment and make access worse for the average citizen. Besides, I believe we've decided to promote a more planned economy. My expectation from our government is that we understand and focus on the needs of the people. Nah, let's not be a dick about it. Let's go with that. We are elected representatives of our people, and we will prioritize their needs. That's reassuring to hear. I don't want to sound cynical, but almost all governments keep making the same promises. We must show we are different through our actions. Do we cover all the necessary subjects? I wish to raise my concerns about your scheduled meeting with the Gasom chairman and former president, Mr. Alphonso. There are significant considerations regarding the Naba workforce and the broader community of Gasom blue-collar employees. This could be a strategic juncture to secure a triumph for the labor force. While I don't intend to overstep, I can't refrain from commenting on the poor labor predicaments experienced by workers in Gasom positions. Nevertheless, it's worth acknowledging that the corporation contributes substantially to job creation in regions struggling with poverty. Persuading the chairman to make concessions might prove to be a formidable task. Cool, this is definitely new. Let's see. Let's go with that one. Our aim should be a mutually beneficial outcome that advances both the economy and the interests of laborers. Such an accomplishment would undoubtedly receive public acclaim, transcending political affiliations. The matter regarding laborers is close to my heart. I would personally be grateful if you were able to resolve the concerns raised by Katarina Horton and other laborers. It would be difficult to imagine someone like Alphonso, obsessed with this corporation, give benefits to workers without personally gaining from it. Gasom relies on us just as we rely on them. Finding a balanced approach is essential. The middle way often sways perilously towards maintaining the status quo. We must ensure that any negotiations genuinely benefit the people, and not just support the interests of these corporate giants. Despite the potential divergence in interests, the door of dialogue among differing sides should always remain open. It's important that ideology doesn't obscure our capacity to bring about tangible, effective transformation. I am encouraged by the willingness of Mr. Manger and Mr. Alphonso to engage dialogue. It is a step forward. We shall keep you no longer. Thank you both for the discussions. I do hope we won't repeat the same mistakes again and again. Have a good day, Mr. President. The ministers left, and I prepared to leave for other official business in the city. The agenda for the next few days is busy. It also included a meeting with Minister Gus Manger and former President Alphonso at the Gasom branch office. As I made my way out, the weather was noticeably cold, but it didn't keep a group of USP supporters from coming out to cheer us on the streets. By looking at the citizens' attire, it's easy to understand the current state of Narbel. Some people wearing clothes a few sizes too large, some kids didn't even have shoes, yet there was hope in their eyes. They were excited to see their president in their city. Fantastic. Alright, got a handful of reports, just one newspaper, so let's start with that one. Ooh, and it's a nice short one from the Wholesale Post. Preserving national sovereignty, and the EPA stands for now. Our Grand National Assembly has demonstrated a resounding commitment to Sorlin's economic independence. The proposed repeal of the Energy Protection Act of 1932, a cornerstone of our national autonomy, is effectively defeated. The stalwart defense of our sovereignty by Gloria Torrey and Ciara Keebner is commendable. Brilliant. Alright, let's check out these reports. Looks like we have, 9 of them, okay. So, first up from Estord, a young swords member found decapitated. The Estord Police Department has found a decapitated body in an abandoned house, where the victim was later identified as Kerr Glenka, a high school teacher member of the local Young Swords Cultural Center. The victim was discovered to be tortured with hot iron rods before his tongue was cut off. Police suspect the Red Youth are responsible for the incident. The incident has not been made public. From Holsword, repeal of the Energy Protection Act of 1932 fails. The proposed repeal of the Energy Protection Act of 1932 is put to a vote in the Assembly today, resulting in its defeat. Despite strong advocacy from the former factions of PFJP and beyond, including within the USP under Alvin Clavin, the majority of the Assembly, led by the USP and NFP, voted against the repeal 179 to 71. Consequently, the Energy Protection Act of 1932 remains in force, maintaining the status quo for foreign ownership restrictions of energy companies in Sorton. This result concludes the current attempt to modify the foreign ownership regulations, but does not preclude further legislative efforts or any initiative by the executive. NFP on reforms. Ciara Keebner, leader of the NFP, has announced today that the NFP is completely against any threshold reform. He specifically emphasized that this would lead to unwanted elements entering the Assembly, and that he is outright against any changes to the 10% threshold. Yeah, of course the Nationalist doesn't want any minorities joining the Assembly. Alright, Workers' Rights Bill nears completion. The Workers' Rights Act of 1954, proposed by Alvin Clavin, supported by the Minister of Health Paskal, is being prepared for first draft review. Voices from the labor union showed strong signs of support. A session dedicated to the bill in the Assembly proved contentious, and the people that form the backbone of the storage economy will finally be protected by extensive laws, Katarina Horton said, receiving both cheers and boos. Moorbell mine disaster. A coal mine has collapsed in Moorbell. Emergency response teams were dispatched immediately. Due to the sheer size of the disaster, additional manpower and supplies were requested from nearby cities. Initial investigation shows that an underground fire has started due to the neglect in working situations by the Neta Mining Group. Current death toll is 82 and counting. Alright, heading over to Lesbia, I guess, yeah. Kazi builds military base in Lesbia. President Walker visited Lesbia last week to engage in talks with Prime Minister Alvarez concerning the establishment of Arkazi military bases in Lesbia. Following the conclusion of the discussions, an agreement was reached between the two leaders regarding significant military defense investment in Lesbia. As part of the agreement, a large military base will be constructed in Ravnos Island. The base will be equipped with Arkazian radar and anti-air systems for enhanced security. Additionally, Arkazi plans to deploy a dozen M3 ballistic missiles. The base is expected to accommodate approximately 200 strategic bombers and jet fighters, along with an estimated 20,000 Arkazian soldiers. And from CSP leaders discuss Helioland at Halem Summit. In a pivotal meeting convened in Halem, leaders of the CSP have gathered to discuss the intricate issue of Helioland sovereignty, a matter tinged with historical complexity. The Assembly recalled the 1920s Agnolian annexation of the island during Falklands Revolution, underscoring their commitment to address past missteps and ensure a future that respects the rights and aspirations of the island's inhabitants. The summit was also a testament to the CSP's adept navigation in an ever-evolving geopolitical landscape, marked by the capitalist influence of the ETO. Emphasizing the importance of dialogue and cooperation, CSP leaders reiterated their determination to avoid escalation in an already delicate situation. Moreover, they confirmed the existence of prepared contingency plans, ensuring that Vogsland, as a key member of the CSP, receive unwavering support if the need arises. The summit concluded on a note of shared resolve, with CSP leaders collectively affirming their dedication to preserving peace and stability, even amidst the challenging dynamics presented by the Helye Island issue. Alright, heading over to Narbel, labor strike at Gasom. Blue-collar workers at Gasom and Narbel have initiated a labor strike. This industrial action follows disagreements over wages, working conditions, and workers' rights. The strike has resulted in a temporary disruption to Gasom's operations. The duration of the strike and the potential impact on Narbel's local economy are currently uncertain. Negotiations between Gasom management and striking workers are reportedly ongoing. And CPS and LUS strike against Gasom. In Narbel, the Communist Party of Sorland and the Labor Union of Sorland have organized a strike against Gasom. Prominent figures Katarina Horton of LUS and Dennis Stoller of CPS have confirmed their participation. The impact of the strike on Gasom's operations and the wider political climate in Narbel remains to be unseen. Coolio. Alright. Well, let's head to Narbel to meet with Gus and President Alphonso. After a series of intense meetings with Ciara and Paskal, I decided to take some much-needed rest to recharge. We've seen imperative were laboring tirelessly in the capital, uniting democratically leaning reformers for the crucial task of drafting a new constitution. Meanwhile, Gus Bonjade invited me to visit the Gasom headquarters in Narbel. It was situated in Ornobel, a neighborhood on the city outskirts. Next to it was the Dominoid Gas Reserve, a prominent natural gas source consisting of 4 large fields. As our motorcade made its way through the Ornobel district, I noted the neighborhood's state of disrepair. The roads were bumpy and marked by potholes, while the buildings surrounding us appeared run down and dilapidated. The community had apparently endured a prolonged period of neglect. We came to a halt at the entrance gates of the facility. A sizable mural depicting the Gasom logo had been painted on a nearby wall. Adjacent to the mural, a group of individuals wearing blue work vests had assembled, holding what looked like protest signs. Serge skillfully parked the car, bringing our journey to a smooth and elegant conclusion. Gus greeted us warmly as we stepped out of the vehicle. Good day, President Rain. Welcome to Gasom's Narbel operations. I trust Ministers Wald and Manuel didn't overwhelm me with their demands. Let's go with that one. Good to see you, Gus. I want to talk to you about what we can do to help the development here. Perfect. It's exactly what I hope to accomplish during today's discussions. My job is to improve the conditions of places like these. Mr. President, I've been brainstorming a little something. The Gruny Rural Investment Plan. I reckon it's got the potential to breathe new life into our rural communities out in Gruny. We could consider a few things. For starters, we could give the farming businesses a boost with some subsidies. Or we could steer towards modernizing existing farms with machinery and tech. Or, here's another thought, we could pour resources into developing crop breeds tailor-made for Gruny conditions. If it works out, we could roll this out across Sorghum. He kept talking as he guided me into the Gasom building. Mr. President, I get the appeal of the green bill that's been making rounds in the Assembly. But I'm telling you, if we put the brakes on that and funnel those funds into the Gruny plan instead, we can make some real strides without spooking any potential investors. It's a tough call, Gus. I need to weigh the environmental implications and the economic benefits. That's all I'm asking for, Mr. President. Just give the plan a fair shake. Our talk was interrupted by a noise coming from outside the building. We looked out the nearest window. A sleek helicopter was cutting through the sky, sunlight glinting off its polished surface as it descended towards us. On it was our next appointment, Alphonso. The extravagant show of wealth, isn't it? Hardly seems necessary. It's Alphonso's style, Mr. President. He's always enjoyed his toys. Before we meet him, I wanted to bring up one more piece of assembly business. This workers' rights bill. Look, I'm all for giving hardworking folks what they deserve, but isn't it a bit hasty to push this while we're still stuck in a recession? The way I see it, short-term wins might end up costing us big in the long run. Gus, I get what you're saying, but isn't it high time we put people before profits? I see where you come from, Mr. President, but a prosperous economy helps everyone, the workers included. If we're all sinking, nobody's winning. Please come this way. Evel and I have some exciting news to share with you. I have faith that you won't leave us hanging. Let's see. You know what? We're going to go with this one. We're going a little bit more neutral. After convincing arguments about the railway project, I was curious what else we could achieve. I'm flattered, Mr. President. I'm glad you made the right choice, of course. I admit I'm slightly frustrated that you contracted SSC. They've been leeching off Solar's people for too long. The corruption in that organization is unfathomable. It makes the Lodeberg group look like saints. The government has clear control over SSC's operations. We wouldn't get that with a private corporation. It might seem like we have control, but those organizations are slow and inflexible. The only difference between an SSC manager and a fossil in the pre-migration period is that the fossil might actually be worth something. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the elevator. He pushed open a door. We walked down yet another hallway, seemingly in the direction we'd just come from. Well, like a maze, isn't it? That's Canelli architecture for you. The hallways were lined with doors. Glass panels in them revealed workers in suits and ties, many of foreign origin, busy in the pristine offices. Stark contrast with the blue-collar workers outside working with machinery, transportation, and maintenance. The white-collar workers seem to have it good in here, while the majority are working out in the cold. The equipment provided is high standard. I've seen it for myself. Besides, there'll always be differences between workers. Ah, here's the elevator. The old ought to be up there already. There's a separate entrance by the helipad. We stepped in the elevator. Gus punched the code and we began our ascent. Just remember, Alphonso's our friend. We've got the foundation for a great deal. The door's open. Here we are. Evil, my friend. Evil Alphonso stood up from his chair. He had on a perfectly tailored suit and he wore as casually as pajamas. Gus, you did well. You old devil. It takes one to know one. As promised, I brought a guest of honor. President Rain, I hope you've enjoyed seeing our facilities here. President Alphonso, it's nice to see what you built from the inside. It's fine, nothing compared to the Gasom HQ in Horsford, of course. Still one of the standouts of the Maroon District. Please have a seat, let's talk. We sat down. Some snacks and drinks were served. Multiple Gasom yearly financial reports were scattered on the table between us. It's been a while, Mr. Rain. Let me catch up on my activities since I left office. I have ventured to China, immersed myself in its vibrant culture, and traversed the captivating landscapes of the Inrakan Peninsula, and finally reunited with old acquaintances in Callao. Something, I don't know. Along the way, I had the privilege of encountering remarkable individuals who made significant contributions to their respective fields. My experience has prompted deep reflection on the essence of life. I came out of it all with two words resonating in my head: reputation and legacy. And these two pillars embody the lasting impact we leave behind in the way we are remembered by others. With a cup of coffee in hand, he strolled over to the window, his gaze drawn to the expansive gas fields stretching before him. Towering mountains provide a majestic backdrop. Let's go with that one. While reputation and legacy hold significance, we should also remember that life's true essence lies in the present moment. He gazed out for a moment longer as he contemplated what I had said, then turned back to us. I have been thinking about my own legacy and reputation. I refuse to be remembered as a failed reformer. I put so many years of my life into this corporation, and then I left it all behind and devoted myself to serving the people of Solomon. And serve you did, so it'll be much worse off without you. Gasom continues to thrive, doesn't it? Your tenure as president may have come to an end, but it's not as if you were left with nothing. Gasom still operates, yes. Thrives is perhaps an exaggeration. That's why Mr. Manger and I have been diligently exploring alternative solutions. The latest figures show that Gasom will have to either decrease staff and operations by 40% a year, or take on a crushing amount of debt. And this is why we have decided to reach out to foreign investors. I have concerns about relying too heavily on foreign investors. It's important to prioritize local ownership and maintain sovereignty over our national resources. I understand your concerns, but the future of Gasom is on the line. Rest assured, we'll take measures to protect our interests and ensure responsible engagement. I appreciate you coming through, Gus. Getting Rizia interested in another investment is a major feat. We've got an amazing opportunity here. The demand for gas is steadily increasing for both international partners and the solar state. All we have to do is ensure a consistent supply. The trouble is that right now, some of our fields are operating only half the capacity due to resource limitations, but we have significant potential for expansion, including two new fields that haven't even been tapped. With the right amount of investment, we can expand resource extraction, effectively fulfill rising demand, and ensure long-term stability and profitability. There is the aforementioned interest in Rizia, but the investment could also come from Solomon itself. You do know that Rizia can't invest more than 20% unless government permits transaction, which can take a long time. Which is precisely why we've invited you to be a part of this discussion. I will remind you that I was never against the complete removal of the Energy Act Protection Act of 1932. In fact, I saw eye to eye with Seoul about protecting our natural resources from foreign investments, but there's a balance in all things. The reality of our quasi-style capitalism means our national interests could absolutely be part of the discussion. Mr. Alphonso has neglected to mention this is not an either-or proposition. Swordsman can invest alongside Rizia. We don't need another nation to take care of our own energy company. Couldn't we keep this between Swordsman and Gasom? I think there is a strong potential for deep partnership. The government strengthens the security of gas and the company can compete and grow. It would be more costly from the government perspective, but a worthwhile endeavor. And if we draw other investors, take knowledge, sell shares for a higher price, and make a return. The sound of sirens briefly distracted us. Through the window, we saw police cars driving down the street, chasing to the Gasom sound. We redirected our attention to the meeting. Evald looked at me. Mr. President, I believe we have the potential for a mutually beneficial partnership. However, we need to align our objectives and expectations. You know, Mr. President, if we get the government in on this, it's a win-win. Not only does Gasom continue to operate and grow, but it also strengthens state energy security and economic power. We just need a little risk appetite, that's all. Are you ready, Mr. President, to take on the risks that come with ensuring that one of Solon's most valuable energy companies continues to operate and grow? Are you ready to make your government stronger? Well, what kind of assurances can you provide that this will pay off in the long term, President Alphonso? Mr. President, in business there are no guarantees, but I can assure you that we at Gasom are committed to doing everything in our power to ensure this deal pays off for Solon. I can't give you a guarantee, but I can tell you that I trust President Alphonso and I believe in this deal. Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith. Mr. President, have you ever considered that the future Solon might rest not on avoiding risks, but about embracing them? That our greatest potential might lie not in the safety of what we know, but in the uncertainty of what we might discover? I have, and I believe that embracing uncertainty is a part of leadership. We must be bold in our decisions for the future of Solon. If the Solish government chooses to invest, it will gain a voice in the broader company decisions, even as a minority stakeholder. The government could either liquidate its shares at a future date or continue to reap the long-term profits. A beneficial arrangement for both parties. Evald walked back over the window. He stood there, silhouetted against the vast expanse of the gas fields. After a moment, he turned back to face us. His gaze was steady, the expectation clear in his eyes. Time had come to make a decision. Well, Mr. President, will Gasom and Solon make history or not? Let's see. I think the best option is going to be to completely invest. Because like you said, a little bit further up, well, yeah, right there. Gain a voice in company decisions, so maybe we can push for more worker reform that way. So, we'll do that. And completely invest here. We're investing alone. Solon will provide the majority funds, and Gus will tell Rizzi to back off. Your decision shows commitment to Solon's energy dependence, so we won't let you down. It's a bold move, Mr. President. I reckon it's the right one. Gasom's success will be Solon's success. The worried workers will have no fears about job security thanks to state intervention. Before we dive into celebrations, I've allocated time during this meeting for President Rain to discuss any concerns regarding Gasom's treatment of its workers and its effects on Narbel. The Labor Union, along with the Communist Party of Solon, has rallied substantial support from Gasom workers in Narbel, advocating for improved local conditions. Alphonse nodded and looked at me. Cool, so yeah, we can definitely kind of push for better conditions here. Our duty is to listen and take action. That's the mandate granted to us by the public. While sometimes people may not always recognize it's in the best interest. Do you have a proposal in mind, Mr. President? I expect Gasom to contribute significantly to local charities to aid the city's recovery. I share your concerns about Narbel. Gasom is committed to implementing sustainable practices that will lessen impact on the environment and the community. Personally, I am committed to supporting local charities to enhance community engagement. We need to do more than just reduce harm. Our goal should be a better Narbel, not just a less bad one. This is a promising. Evald's commitment to these initiatives should alleviate some of our concerns. Of course, we are fully committed to ensuring our operations are Suddenly, the meeting was interrupted. The quiet murmur of conversation from outside the room grew louder, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. A member of the private security team entered the room, his face hot with urgency. He approached Alphonso and leaned in to whisper something in his ear. Neville nodded solemnly, his gaze meeting mine with serious intensity. Gentlemen, it seems we have an unexpected situation outside. Some protesters from the labor union have blocked the main vehicular exits. Katarina Horton and Dennis Salas seem to be leading the group. It would be difficult to leave the way we came without causing trouble. Well, that's a pickle. What's our move involved? I have a helicopter ready. We can leave undetected and avoid the chaos and potential danger. No, do you think we should face the crowd head on? That is your prerogative, Mr. President. Following the violent events of late, I heavily recommend against facing any crowd. Mr. President, I can advise you to leave via helicopter just in case. I can stay back and update the crowd on discussions today. Serge Volkner rushed in. Mr. President, I've discussed the situation with President Scott and police security. They're advising us not to go out the way we came in. More police are on the way. You must make a decision, Mr. President. Everyone waited. The tense silence of the room stood in stark contrast to the buzz of the ever-growing crowd outside. Fantastic. Alright, well, I was hoping to get something a little more concrete about increasing working conditions. I don't know if I clicked the wrong thing, or maybe it'll pop up later, but whatever. Either way, that feels like as good a place as any to go and call for today. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see y'all next time.